Hi everyone, this is a brief introduction to critical thinking, and we want to start out by asking what is critical thinking? It implies conscious inquiry. So think about inquiring or examining our reasoning so we can better understand the basis of our judgments and decisions. Critical thinking helps ensure that we have good reasons for our beliefs, and we want to have good reasons. We want our beliefs to be rational and true. And the best way to do this is to form beliefs based on solid reasons. So how do we do this? The answer lies, to begin, within ourselves. We must be open-minded and self-aware. So we need to be more aware of our own thought processes so that we can approach difficult questions and seek intelligent answers. And to do so, we need to interrogate ourselves. Let's look at this statement. Critical thinkers must interrogate their own thinking as rigorously as they interrogate others. I think it can be easy to interrogate other people's thinking and beliefs when they disagree with our own. However, it can be more difficult to interrogate our own beliefs and our own ways of thinking. However, this is key to critical thinking. We must be alert to our limitations, to our biases, and we need to be aware of the quality of evidence and forms of logic we use as well. So, as we start this self-examination, let's move into what an argument is. It is a set of statements that together comprise a reason for a further statement. So, we have statements that lead us to a conclusion. And when we reach a conclusion on the basis of evidence and reasoning, this is called an inference. Now, there can be good or bad arguments. And as we move through the semester, we'll be talking about validity and soundness of arguments. But right now, let's keep it simple and just talk about a good or a bad argument. In a good argument, there are statements or premises that make the conclusion likely to be true. So the premises that you begin with support the conclusion. In a bad argument, the premises do not support the conclusion. And this is a key part of critical thinking, is we need to be able to evaluate arguments and determine whether or not their premises support their conclusion. So let's look at an example. Lucy is she's hosting a party, and you and Lucy have a mutual acquaintance named Laura, and you're talking about whether or not she's coming to the party. Lucy says she's not coming to the party, and there's two possible reasons. Laura will not be at the party because Lucy dislikes her, and she wants to have a good time. Or another possible reason is that Laura is in Hawaii. Let's look at the first argument. Premise number 1 is that Lucy dislikes Laura. Premise 2 is that Lucy wants to have a good time. And the conclusion is that Laura won't be at the party. Now think about this. If Lucy dislikes Laura and wants to have a good time, does it follow that Laura will not be at the party? In this case, the premises are unrelated to the conclusion. They don't make the conclusion likely to be true. Laura might come to the party anyway, even though Lucy dislikes her and wants to have a good time. Therefore, this is a bad argument. Now, if we brought in another premise that said Lucy was in charge of the guest list and would not invite Laura, that could be turned into a good argument because it would follow that Laura wouldn't be at the party in those circumstances. But as it is, this argument is not good because the premises are unrelated to the conclusion. Let's look at the second argument now. Premise number 1 is that Laura is in Hawaii. And premise number 2 is it's impossible for Laura to make it to the party because she's out of state. And then the conclusion, Laura will not be at the party. In this case, logically follows the first two statements. If Laura is in Hawaii, and if she is out of state and can't make it to the party, the conclusion is that she will not be there. That makes sense. It's a good argument. So if the premises are true, the premises guarantee the conclusion. So in such an argument where the premises do guarantee the conclusion, we call this type of argument deductive. And in a deductive argument, given the premises, the conclusion must be true. So this is just very simple examples to begin with, just to look at the structure of premises and conclusions and to distinguish between good and bad arguments, whether the premises are related to the conclusions. So briefly, let's review this. To be critical thinkers, we must examine our reasoning. We must be self-aware and open-minded. We have to be willing to interrogate our own thinking as rigorously as we interrogate others. And we must learn to distinguish good arguments from bad arguments. So I hope this gives you a basis for starting out with critical thinking. We'll move forward from here, and I'll talk to you soon.